The Thunder rolled the Lakers last night. J.J. Redick was furious.
He held them accountable.
He held them accountable, benched Mando, swore at Rui, and then said DeAndre Ayton couldn't catch the ball. Meanwhile, OKC is just like, whatever, this is what we do. The number one seed, if they win tonight, still in LA against the Clippers. Danny, are you taking the Thunder or the field?
The Thunder. I still think we as a show and as like a basketball populace are underrating the Thunder. Maybe because of style points, maybe because of market size.
We need something to talk about.
Maybe we need something to talk about.
I don't think it's that, but go.
Yeah, but I don't.
So it's for me.
You're just answering for you and you alone. So yeah, I mean, maybe that's a separate conversation. So I'll just make the Thunder case. But like they are a perfectly constructed basketball team.
Oof.
And they have been that now for a sample size of going on 2 years. And last year, the playoffs were a little bit more turbulent than I thought it was going to be with Denver and Indiana. But so far this year, they are basically exactly running back last year.
Yep.
Record, they obviously have 3 more games still to play. Point differential, very similar, clearly best in the league by far. Offensive rating, defensive rating on down the line to SGA's eventual back-to-back MVP coronation. They are doing basically the same thing this year as last year, except the majority of the time without who I would say is their second best player, Jalen Williams, who has...
Chet was out a lot last year.
Chet was out, and Chet has been much better this year than he was last year. Jalen Williams, in the 6 games that he's played since his return, hasn't had like a 30-point game yet, hasn't had a 40-point game yet, but he's been a very efficient player, 49% from the floor. Playmaking has been excellent. And I guess why I feel like we underrate them, last 50 years, wins over 2 seasons. The Bulls, the 2 Warriors seasons that are around the 73. So it's the year before 73 and 73, then 73 and the year after. And then this current Thunder iteration, which is about to pass, the Bulls of their second three-peat era when, they win 1 more game of their last 3. So their youth, their defense, their consistent dominance, their MVP player, I don't really see a flaw in the team.
So
to be totally honest, I don't see a flaw.
So I don't think they have a glaring flaw. I agree with that part.
And every other team does.
Well, but sure, but I don't think. I think both of your graphics go to why I will take the field. Can we run back Danny's first graphic? Because you're right, they are very similar to last year, except a little worse. The record is a little worse. The points per differential
there's 3 more
is
games
a little
to go,
worse.
So yeah.
Well, they're not going to have minus losses. They're going
68 to 66.
Right, it's a little worse. And the point differential's a little worse, and the offensive rating's a little worse, defensive rating's a little better, and Shea's numbers are a little worse. And last year, they were in a dogfight with Denver, who had just fired its coach, and a dogfight with a Pacers team that no one believed in going into Game 6 of the finals. People still were like, this Halliburton Magic can't keep up. And listen, they won the championship, and maybe they would have won it if Tyrese doesn't go down. Maybe they wouldn't have. But so I think this Thunder team is a little worse than last year's. And the graphic that you showed, 2 of those teams only won 1 championship in those the 15-17 Warriors only won 1 championship, and the 14-16 Warriors only won 1 championship because both of them ran out of steam, or they ran out of steam in 2016, or they didn't win, or LeBron took it, however you want to put it. And so I think the West is tougher this year. I think if they make the finals, it will be a better team with respect to last year's Pacers than they had in the Pacers last year. And I think what we have seen represented time and time again this decade is defending your championship is always harder in May than it feels like it's going to be in April. 4 of the last 5 champions on April 8th of that year, it looked, now they weren't as dominant, it looked like they're going to win again, and all of them got popped in round 2. Didn't even make it to the conference finals.
So let me just address both those points real quick, Blue.
Yeah.
I do think this team is uniquely positioned to repeat and buck that trend because you talk about like run out of gas. All of their players are young. Other than Caruso, who's 32. I mean, like, SGA 27.
So were the Celtics, right?
But I mean,
Horford.
SGA 27, Chet 23, J-Dub 24, Wallace 22, Lou Dort 26. Like they're all young and in their athletic prime. And the idea that their rating and all that stuff is a little, like a point worse, don't you think that would be made up for if they had all NBA, all defense, all-star Jalen Williams for the majority of the year? And now they do at this moment?
Last year they did what they did without having Chet for the majority of the year, and then they had him for the playoffs. So to me, not having Chet last year, not having J-Dub this year, and I don't have any evidence for one reason or another that this team is better with Jalen Williams on the court. There's no evidence of it.
Same.
I mean, they're just
I mean, the guy scored 40 points in a finals game.
He's a great
player.
He hasn't been that guy this year for them. I'm with Nick. I'll take the field. The last 2 champions, we felt the same way we feel about the Thunder. Maybe to slightly different degrees, but Boston was looking like they were going to run through the league and win the championship again. Denver before that, we thought, could do the same thing. And even with that happening, I might feel as you do and I get it, I'm not going to make, I've seen many times in my decades of covering the NBA, I've seen many times when a team in the regular season swept even a team, and then in the playoffs it was different. Just last year, Boston had its way with New York, and it changed in the playoffs. However, what I saw with the Thunder and the Spurs was alarming. Yeah, that's when nobody, including me, thought the Spurs were even a contender. And then when they did what they did to the Thunder, time and time again, won 4 out of 5, and 2 or 3 of those games, the Thunder were like, no.
Yeah.
All right, timeout. We about to show you who's the best. And they still got beat.
Yep.
And so.
And it wasn't because Wemby.
Right. Wemby wasn't even full strength for a couple of those games. And so.
And Jalen Williams played in multiple of them.
Yeah. Yes. And so if they play the Spurs in the conference finals, which it'll be, that means the Spurs are hardened now. They will have gone through Denver, an experienced team like Phoenix or LA in the first round. Like, they will be ready if that happens. And I just think they do match up well because they got the speed, they got the youth, the same as OKC, and the depth.
Brew, can I ask you a question? You're big on experience, but if they met in the Western Conference Finals, your experience narrative would be in the garbage because they had won.
Well, it would just be like, I mean, the Thunder aren't incredibly experienced themselves. Last year, we had the question about them. Now, again, they did win the championship. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know that you could hold that against the Spurs if they beaten Jokic in the second round.
I think, I'm not to speak for Brew, I could see a scenario where Brew feels like Denver will beat the Spurs, but if the Spurs beat Denver, they're going to win the title. Like that, I could see that feeling like
that would say a lot about the Spurs.
Yeah, so that they might not get there, but if they get there, then they have now
first time in the playoffs versus the. Yeah, okay.
I mean, go.
Well, I mean, I guess I would just say
it's not that different from how the Timberwolves beat the Nuggets. That team didn't have a bunch of playoff experience together. It was the second time in the playoffs.
Yeah, and then they won, and then they sort of peaked too early.
Yeah. No. Well, okay, I see what you mean. Okay,
we did it.
About them
like, well, you didn't.
Got you.
I guess the other part is, and you alluded to it, Nick, in tears, like, this path is pretty sweet for Oklahoma City.
That's right.
Like,
to the conference finals for sure.
Well, right, and so maybe the Spurs are a
They
tougher
wear each other
matchup
out.
for the Thunder, but they might not even get there.
Right.
And in order to get there, they probably will have had to play, I would imagine we would all think that would be a 6 or 7 game series between the Spurs and the Nuggets. And I got to assume most of us believe that if it is Thunder Rockets or Thunder Lakers, that is a 4.
It's a quick series.
Yeah.
That is a quick series, so they will be the more rested team. They are
That's all true.
They are the number 1 overall seed again. So any game 7 would be on their home floor, which mattered last year immensely in the finals and in that series against Denver.
But I think Boston could beat the Thunder.
Of course, Boston.
Boston could
of course they could.
So are you not at all concerned is probably too strong, but your enthusiasm tempered by the fact that the Thunder were as juggernauty last year in the regular season, and in the playoffs were shaky.
Yeah.
I do not think the Thunder were great. Shea has scored 20 points in 150 straight games, except for the 3 times last playoffs when he didn't.
It was 2 injuries that helped them win it.
And
Aaron
so,
Gordon and obviously Halliburton.
And that, listen, I'm not putting an asterisk. I'm not doing any of that. What I'm saying is when the noise around OKC is officiating related, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And the playoffs started, and they were not as good. Now, again, they won the championship. They have the guy that's going to win the MVP. But I think there was maybe some concern. The 15 Warriors were this regular season juggernaut that was not a playoff juggernaut. And then in 16, it turned out, oh, that's right. They were a regular season juggernaut even more, and then down 3-1 in the conference finals.
It wasn't just that Cleveland beat them.
Right. They were down 3-1, and then they lost.
Yeah.
The Warriors with KD were a different animal. Like that to me would temper me a bit on that. The Thunder, I agree with you. The path is setting up very well. I said it myself, but
So the thing about them that I absolutely know, they are the best defensive team. And that doesn't slump. That will travel.
Yeah, but there are a lot of other great defensive teams.
Sure.
San Antonio's great.
Detroit,
Boston.
the ratings and the points would say that the Thunder are a class above. There's a distance between them as the best defensive team and the second best defensive team. So, like, Boston could have bad shooting for a time in the playoffs. Like, that can slump like it did in their series against the Knicks. They will have home court. And one of the things we said about the Thunder last year was how experienced are they? Look how young they are. So I think there's a reasonable that they should perform better in these playoffs because they have more experience and know what it takes to get it done.
That part, it definitely works in their favor. The 2 straight 100-game seasons target on your back has just proven to be too much for everybody. And again, I think the finals is going to be Thunder Celtics. So I obviously think that they are positioned incredibly well to go back-to-back. But I think them versus the field is a little too rich.
It's been too much
blood.
for everybody, as Nick said, except Jordan.
Great news, everybody. It's Wednesday on First Things First Overtime, so it's a time.
A few guys have gone back-to-back since Jordan.
You said 100 wins. Right?
100,
whatever that was.
Where we look at some cool stats. They're in a briefcase, of course. It's time for Packed Stats. Danny, your leather gloves.
Leather gloves.
And
you know he wears these on Wednesdays when he goes home.
We're supposed to reveal that.
What is our
That's
first
personal.
stat?
I'm glad you asked, Wilds, because you know what else is cool?
What?
Trying. NBA teams should try it.
Try
Draymond
what?
Green was exactly right.
Yes.
The playoffs cannot get here soon enough. Eliminated teams against top 6 teams over the last month are 6 and 59.
Terrible.
In a sport with a salary cap and a salary floor among professional athletes, that should never happen. Average point differential in those games over the last month, 16.5 points, but it's even worse than that. 25 of those 59 losses have come by 20 or more. 16 have come by 30 or more. And 25 times they've been down double digits in the first quarter. Just straight up non-competitive basketball.
No,
it's an epidemic.
It's terrible. And this last month and a half, whatever it is, half of the night's games are unwatchable.
Unwatchable.
And you cannot get a gauge on, is Houston really playing great? Are they clicking at the right time? Because they're playing a bunch of tankers. To me, Danny, the answer is simple. The lottery's no longer weighted. 14 teams in the lottery, you all have the same chance to get the number 1 pick.
There's a bunch of ideas
Not mad at that.
behind it. This is, not only is this not my idea, it's one specific person's, and gosh darn it, I can't. So someone who's listening will know who it was because they said it publicly. And I heard it, I was like, I love that idea. And that was after a certain date, call it game 60 or whatever, wins count as losses to your lottery odds. So if your record is 15-45, and then the rest of the season you go 10-12, then all of those wins count as your losses. So for the eliminated teams, winning games helps your lottery chances only in the final quarter of the season. Something has to be done. What I will say is, because Shams reported during our show, the NBA is going to investigate what happened in Sacramento last night and whether or not it was objective tanking or, as Shams put it, just a strategic mishap by Doug Christie. As someone who has a little more investment in the Kings than most and maybe has watched a little more Kings than most, let me tell you, my money is on strategic mishap by Doug Christie. But it is an epidemic.
They got to fix it and just enforce your tanking rules.
Well, that'll work.
That would be a start.
Ain't cool.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, tanking ain't cool that way.
Tanking.
No, trying is cool.
It's the coolest. But you guys know what else is cool?
What else is cool?
Thanks for asking. Child prodigies.
Oh, that's true.
Cooper Flagg is still 19 years old. And I understand Con Knipple is a great three-point shooter. But Cooper Flagg needs to be the MVP, the Rookie of the Year, because he's actually playing like an MVP. Over the last month, that is the entire list of players who are averaging more than 24 points, more than 6 boards, and more than 5 assists. It is a multi-time MVP with the Joker. It is a guy who's got a shot at finishing top 5 in Jaylen Brown. And then, of course, Luka Doncic, who we'll see what happens with the 65-game restriction. Con has been an amazing story and a great shooter, but Cooper Flagg, a 19-year-old superstar, future potential face of the league, he's been remarkable.
Brew, can I ask you a question off of this?
Yeah.
Prior to those 2 huge scoring nights, you still had Con as your Rookie of the Year.
I hadn't dug into it the way I will when I do my official ballot, but I was thinking Con. It's possible I may have just looked at it and been like, Cooper is the better player, has been better. I don't think there's any question he's been the better player.
Yep.
Cooper. And Con, though, is doing it in a winning. That's the argument for Con. He's been great, but he's doing it in a winning somewhat winning situation.
Barely above 500
right now.
But he's also not being asked to carry.
No, right, exactly. He's the third leading scorer on his team.
Correct. So,
and he's actually faded a tad lately.
Listen, I agree with you on Cooper Flagg. This is the one award where I care almost none about winning.
Of course.
Can I just throw a little wrinkle before we get to third cool stat?
Yeah,
Something
please.
we haven't talked about at all,
By all means.
even though we've talked a ton about the Spurs. Do you think Spurs front office at all is like, Dylan Harper, Con Knipple, could have had Con shooting, who's already ready, evidently, to be part of winning.
Oh.
On like they're a little, there's a little redundant at guard, not redundant, but they have Castle and Fox already.
Right.
Going into the draft, everybody felt like it was Flagg 1, Harper 2. So I'm not criticizing them for it, but with the benefit of hindsight, do you think any of them's like, wow, for our chances of winning the title this year?
That's what I was going to say. For this year, I think you want Con. For the next 10 years, I'm pretty positive.
Yeah, Dylan looks like he's going to be a star.
I agree.
He can help their defense some, but that's an interesting thought.
Good.
You guys know what else is cool?
What else is cool?
String quartets.
Oh, wow.
You guys know I love a big 4. And when the Cavs Big 4 plays,
my God.
it's music to my ears, baby. No, I'm not letting it go.
What?
Now, less than 100 minutes together
believe
still.
this.
Of course I do.
They're getting to
It is the best defensive rating in the NBA when Mitchell, Harden, Mobley, and Allen are on the court together. and their offensive rating also would be first in the NBA. Now, is it only 76 minutes?
No.
It's only 76 minutes. Hold on. But
Probably against Tank.
they've been resting Donovan Mitchell. In the game against the Warriors a couple of nights ago, they played 15 minutes together and were dominant.
15?
Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, James Harden, Donovan Mitchell.
Are losing before the conference finals.
We already have that bet. That is the toughest matchup for Boston.
This is not a top 3 cool stat segment. You're
String
on
quartets?
String.
It's music to my ears.
I mean, I do like the quartet
when you say
music to my ears piece,
part.
I will admit. And I do like that Danny, every once in a while when you're a professional takesman, you give a take and I think sometimes I walk off the set and I'm like, oh boy. Am I going to lean into that one or am I going to hope the other guys forget because I'm going to have trouble defending it? I feel like Danny, when he debuted, the Cavs are going to the finals, walked off and was like, had to make that decision, and he decided, you know what? I'm leaning into it. I'm in.
You are leaning.
I respect it.
I think it's a good balance. Where like, you know who's I think is going to win, who has great defense? The Thunder. and the Cavs. Like, oh, let me lean into this one.
In fairness, I gave that take before Tatum came back and looked amazing.
Oh, okay, well.
I'm just saying.
Take away everything Nick
Tatum's
just
been a little
said.
better than I thought, but the Cavs, still scary.
Also, shout out Danny's youngest son, Eli, who evidently really likes my tie.
Oh, shout out to Eli.
During the segment.
Yeah,
great.
Eli's a big
Thanks
fan
for
of the
watching,
show.
Eli. And all.
Hey, thanks, Eli.
We are 15 days away from the 2026 NFL Draft, and we want to take you inside the OT War Room, where every day we are talking the biggest storylines ahead of the draft. We have Super Bowl champions, Coach Eric Mangini, Willie Colon, and myself taking the biggest stories. I know, I don't have rings, okay? You can stop reminding me.
I like the and myself part.
I'm here too, okay? 4 combined Super Bowls, and we are today taking calls on the Ohio State Buckeyes. They are going to be very well represented in this draft, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Players like Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, and Caden McDonald are all projected to go in the first round of the draft. And so, Coach, we asked you, with all of your experience and, yes, your Super Bowl rings, to look at the defensive players for Ohio State and tell us which of those 4 guys is your favorite.
Yeah, well, look, I would love to have all 4 of those guys.
That's not allowed.
If you took those 4 guys and put them on any defense, you'd be really good in a hurry. And it was hard to make this decision, but the guy that I went with was Caleb Downs, and that might have been my bias from coaching the secondary for a long time. But when you look at a guy like Caleb, he's unique in a lot of different ways, and he adds value in a lot of different ways. So he's able to play multiple positions. He's been extremely productive. He's the first freshman to ever lead Alabama in tackles, which is amazing. And that's a really complicated defensive system. And then you go to Ohio State, and with the addition of Matt Patricia, it became much more of a pro system, and he excelled in that as well. So he played a lot of spots on the defense, but outside of that, he was a force multiplier. And what I mean by that is he was not only able to produce himself, but the way that he communicated, the way that he studied, the way that he was able to make the other guys around him play better is also an important part of this equation.
So there's not a ton of ball production there, right? There's not a lot of forced fumbles in the stat sheet, not a lot of sacks, but a ton of tackles, not a lot of interceptions. Can you show us what impressed you? Like they put it out on film.
I definitely would have liked a little bit more production in terms of turnovers, but I think those can then come. I think his ball skills are good, not great. But let me show you a tape and show you a little bit of what I'm talking about in terms of his versatility. So here, he's going to be playing man-to-man defense, and he's going to come down to take his offensive player, but as he reads inside and takes a look at the quarterback, he doesn't bite on the play action. That's important. And then he comes up and takes on the blocker on the outside, which means that he's going to either force that guy back into the rest of the defense, or he's going to make the tackle. So he takes that guy on and is able to make the tackle. Here he is as an inside player working as a slot defender, and you can see him as a blitzer. He does a really good job of timing this up and not showing it off the jump. Out here in the red zone, he's again in man-to-man coverage. He's on the back. It's going to be hitched with a corner route behind it. Now he again peeks back at the quarterback because his player is running a short route, anticipates the fact that they're going to run the corner route, drops back, and makes the pick in the end zone. So those things it's not about just understanding the defense, it's understanding what the offense is going to do to you as well. And there's layers to being a really good player, and a lot of that is not just based on skill, but it's based on understanding of what you do, but also more importantly, understanding what your opponent's going to do.
All right, so Coach, you like Caleb Downs as a first-round talent, but that safety, that's kind of it's a polarizing thing. This is like the cousin, basically, the defensive version of the Jeremiah Love running back conversation. There have just been, in the first round, last 20 years, 6 safeties taken in the top 10. Eric Berry, the only one on that list, who signed a second contract with the team that drafted him. So I guess, Willie, you've seen Coach's tape here. We know his versatility. We know his production. How high is too high to draft a safety like Caleb Downs?
Yeah, I don't really fall into that narrative or believe in that narrative. I feel like if you have a guy and you feel like he's a fit and he can transform your defense, then you go get that guy. And I think if you have a guy who can really have an immediate impact like a Caleb Downs, I feel like you say, hey, man, I like this kid because he reminds me of XYZ. Now, he reminds me of Budda Baker. When I turn on the tape, I see Budda Baker right away, solely because his ability to what? Right here. Look at Budda right there on the left-hand side, shoots the B-gap, clean tackle, makes a big tackle on Alvin Kamara. Look at Caleb right here on the right side, on the line of scrimmage, gets through the traffic, sees ball, get ball. Great tackle in the backfield. Love that, right? This is Budda right there, right? Like the Rams are trying to rub him out this way so they can get a quick pass to the running back. Budda says, I got this. Big tackle on the outside. Caleb right now, look at him, instinctive, downhill, falls into coverage, sees what's in front of him, puts his eyes on the ball, boom, big time tackle. So when you look at Caleb Downs, I just love the fact that out of the 4 guys we mentioned coming out of Ohio State, he's probably the cleanest, right? I think when you turn on his tape, you talked about Matt Patricia, that, at Ohio State, they used him as a chess piece, right? He could play it all over the secondary. He could play down in the box. He can play in the back end. So I think he's probably, out of that 4, he's probably the most complete player.
I've seen draft analysts say that he might be the best overall player in the draft, which again was like Jeremiah Love, but that's a running back and a safety. So Budda Baker, 2-time All-Pro,
Correct.
8-time Pro Bowler, obviously a great player in this league for a long time. Coach, what about you? Is there too high to draft a safety given the position, even with the versatility?
As much as I like him and think that he's going to add real value, it is hard as an organization and as a coaching staff to take a safety that high because you run out of those big bodies pretty quickly and typically the difference between the high-end big bodies and the back-end guys, whether we're talking about edge players or interior defensive linemen or offensive tackles, is so significant that if you don't get one early, you might not be able to get one later. So it's a real discussion that you have to have about whether or not you want to take that position that high.
That's why all the GM types will say it's like best player available, but also at a position in need.
Yeah.
And then premium positions will weigh in there too.
People say that all the time and then draft need or then draft
right.
Yeah.
And so I think Caleb Downs is going to be a fascinating case study for that. So all right, so we've seen now the player, and we just showed you the history of the position of where Caleb Downs can join that group of guys in the top 10. But now let's actually put on the GM hat here a little bit and go with best fit for Caleb Downs. And I'll go first, and he has been mocked here, so it's not the most original thought, but it feels to me like a dream scenario for Cowboys fans and for Jerry Jones if Caleb Downs is sitting there at 12. Couple of reasons. Everyone loves the intangibles, and you mentioned what he did at Alabama and at Ohio State and a national champion. They need an identity on that defense. They really struggled as a pass defense last year. I mean, we can show the stats. I mean, these are horrifying numbers. Those are bottom 2 across the board in rating, touchdown, and yards against. But also, if you do have concerns about the premium of the position, you've got the 20th pick in the draft. So you can take the best player in Downs and then maybe go for more of a project upside piece at a more premium position like corner or edge rusher. So I would say Dallas.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting fit. There's so many teams in the top end of the draft that desperately need help in the secondary. Washington's an interesting place as well. Knowing Dan Quinn, and Dan does like to be multiple, and Dan does like the idea of having versatility. So they need a lot of help, but this could really be a piece again to fill not just multiple spots, but to give him that leadership. Granted, he's young, but give him that leadership and that communication in the secondary and on the defense that seemed to be missing it at a lot of times last season.
Yeah, for me, it's the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he'll be a perfect fit. You talk about him being in the secondary with Brian Cook, 2 young guys. And the Bengals need help on defense. You just lost Trey Hendrickson. The pass rush won't be there. At least you can cover. At least you get a guy who can play in multiple ways in multiple spots. Caleb Downs is a plug-and-play guy. I think he's a perfect fit for the Bengals.
So you guys now, I mean, we talked about positional value, and then you had him at 7, and you have him at 10. So it's no way he even gets to Dallas at 12. I think it speaks to how special he is as a player.
Also, the Giants can get him, right? Because even though they got Javon Holland and they got Pinnock, a lot of the secondary we see now because of matchups, we're seeing more 3 safety guys. So he can be a third guy that can really add a lot of value there.
And he also could be one of those surprising picks where everybody thinks he's going to go high, but teams go for positions that are typically drafted there, and suddenly he's sitting there later in the first where a surprising team who didn't think they'd have any chance suddenly takes him.
Seems like everyone loves him. And Eric Berry was 5th pick. Sean Taylor was up there. So some of the safeties that do get drafted that high absolutely make
I want
a
to
difference.
also know that he could slide. There's some issues with his knee that's starting to come up. So hopefully it's not a concern, but he's been forced to kind of defend his knee in public as far as saying he's going to be ready to go. But there's some red flags with the knee right now.
One of the most interesting players in the draft, and we're doing it every day in the OT here leading up to the NFL draft. So tune in tomorrow. It is day 4 of the front office. Are the Rams now the blueprint for successful NFL drafts? We discuss tomorrow on the OT.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.